Hello everyone, welcome to the Armageddon Championship Series 2023. The show that has more ups and downs than a seesaw on a stormy night on a rocky boat. We are broadcasting live from our studios in Berlin. I'm Grandmaster Simon Williams and I'm here alongside the brilliant International Master Jovanka Houska.
Thank you, Simon, and it is awesome to be here. I am super excited because this is the final day of the special event that has been the Women's Week. Now, yesterday we were treated to some spectacular chess. First of all, we had an Armageddon between Humpy Koneru and Alina Kashlinskaya, and we saw Bibisara Assaubayeva in unstoppable form. So let's take a look at yesterday's highlights. I don't hear. Day 6 got off to a thrilling start in the match between Alina Kashlinskaya and Humpy Koneru. A clever opening gave Alina a winning position, but in the time scramble, Alina blundered and lost. In the second game, Alina got her revenge, leaving Humpy chanceless. This meant that the match had to be decided by Armageddon, and in that game, Humpy leveled up to win the match and progress to the next stage.
Well, of course I'm upset because of losing the match. I felt that in blitz part I was dominating with black, and then in Armageddon I played much worse than in blitz.
I think out of the three, the Armageddon was the best game what I performed.
The second match of the day saw Gunay facing Bibisara, both players winning all their matches so far. The first game was a very exciting Nyadov Sicilian, with Bibisara sacrificing a piece in brilliant style on A3. This gave Bibisara a brilliant victory. The second game saw an exchange Slav, with Gunay needing to win. Unfortunately, her position just wasn't up for the task, and Bibisara kept everything at bay, got the win, and goes through to the grand final and a chance to win this whole competition.
The second game I didn't really have the chances, so the first game was the most dramatic one.
You will be playing Humpy. Any thoughts about that matchup?
I will try to show my best, definitely, and come up to the grand final.
Well, it was a brilliant day of chess, and we've come to the last day, the crescendo of the whole tournament. It's the final, and it gets more and more exciting. But before we talk about that, let's just have a look at some of the other events in this series.
Yeah, because this is the Armageddon Championship Series, and all roads will be leading to that grand finale in September. It all kicked off in March with the Americas, where Wesley So and Sam Shanklin punched their tickets to that grand finale. And in April, it was Asia and Oceania, where the youngsters Nordibek Abdusatorov and Gukash won those coveted spots. And now we are nearly at the end of Women's Week, where already we know that Bibisara Assaubayeva has gotten a ticket into that grand finale.
Europe and Africa Regional Series is the next event in June, and we're broadcasting live from this fantastic club, the World Chess Club in Berlin, right in the center on Unter den Linden Street. Really good place. If you get a chance, you must pop in.
And we have to look at the remaining competitors. Just 3 players standing: Bibisara Assaubayeva, Humpy Koneru and Gunay Mammadzada. Who will also join Bibisara in the final? Well, we'll find out that later today. But for now, let's have a look at the prize money that they're winning.
Yeah, there's serious money at stake here. We can see that Bibisara has already guaranteed herself €8,000, but who is going to join her? It's either going to be Humpy or Gunay. One of these players will play off, they're playing in the first game, and join Bibisara in that big money final encounter. It's going to be so exciting.
Absolutely. And of course, we always have to mention our partners. And as a technology and digital privacy company, Kaspersky supports the secure advancement of chess in the digital space and its expansion into online tournaments. It's the perfect combination of human excellence and strong technology.
And now just to update you on the tournament standings, we'll bring up the bracket, which should show all the information you need. There, right on the last day. We're into day 7. Woohoo! Bibisara is through. She's played great chess. She's the reigning women's world champion. She's going to be hard to break down. Who is going to join her? It's either going to be Humpy or Gunay, and we will find out very soon.
Absolutely. We are close to the start now. Let's have a look at the 3 players. We have Humpy Koneru against Gunay Mammadzada, and of course Bibisara Assaubayeva is awaiting the winner. But for now, let's have a look at these players' road to the final.
Today is the final day of the tournament, and 3 heroes remain in the quest for victory. As the excitement reaches its conclusion, let's review their journeys to the finale. Bibisara Assaubayeva from Kazakhstan is the reigning back-to-back World Blitz champion, who remains undefeated in this tournament. Her first match victory came against Georgian legend Nana Dzagnidze, flagging Nana in 2 straight games for the first time in the Armageddon series. She then faced Humpy Koneru in a hair-raising match, ultimately winning on time in the Armageddon. After a smooth victory against Gunay Mammadzada last night, Bibisara secured her spot in the grand finale this September and currently awaits her opponent for the final match of Women's Week. World number 2 Humpy Koneru is also in the hunt for glory. The great Indian player dispensed a former world champion Alexandra Kosteniuk in round 1 to move to the winner's bracket. However, she then lost in brutal fashion to Bibisara Assaubayeva, bringing the match to Armageddon, but losing on time despite being completely winning on the board. Humpy would nevertheless have better fortune in her next match, defeating Alina Kashlinskaya last night in Armageddon to reach the final day. Gunay Mammadzada's journey started against the great German number 1, Elisabeth Paehtz. After missing her chance to convert a win in her first game of the tournament, Gunay bounced back to take a match victory against Elisabeth. In her next match against Alina Kashlinskaya, Gunay achieved a crushing 2-0 match victory. However, Gunay's perfect run would end with a loss to the dominant Bibisara Assaubayeva. To win this tournament, Gunay will have to defeat both Humpy and Bibisara with her second life in the Armageddon series.
So the big final is edging nearer and nearer now, and let's have a look at the 2 players who are trying to get into that final. We have Humpy and Gunay, and this is going to be obviously a very interesting match. You have the veteran against the younger player. They're quite even on score, but at the faster time limit, Humpy has a 4-0 positive score, so you would imagine she is the favourite, and whoever wins this one is guaranteed that place in September in the grand final, which, wow, it's big. It's going to be exciting.
And take a look at some of Humpy's big stats there. She became a grandmaster at 15 years old. She's been a women's world rapid champion in 2019, as well as challenging for the world championship crown itself in 2011. This lady is a legend.
And let's have a look at Gunay as well, her opponent. Gunay, only 22 years old, and sometimes youth helps you a lot in these situations, and what a lot of great things she has achieved in her life. An international master at the age of 18. She's been world youth under 10 champion. She's been national champion. She's just a fantastic player.
Absolutely. Nerves of steel. And we are moments away from the first match. Less than a minute. The clock is ticking down. And of course, let's remind ourselves of the rules. The players will play 2 games of blitz at 3 minutes plus 2-second increment per move. And if the match is tied, then it means everything will be decided by Armageddon.
And the rules of Armageddon: white gets 5 minutes but must win. Black gets 4 minutes but is allowed to get a draw to go through to the final. And now our arbiter, Anastasia. Anastasia is making sure everything is above board. If there's any disputes, she will jump on them like a tiger on its prey.
And there we can see the players getting ready. Humpy with the white pieces, Gunay playing black. Humpy, we've seen she's very impressive in these fast time controls. But Gunay as well, almost unbeatable.
And we are off now. We see the gentle handshake there, and we see Humpy playing her normal queen's pawn opening. Humpy quite likes a positional, slower game. Gunay not playing her Slav opening, so maybe a slight surprise, her opening choice. This is actually called the Queen's Indian defense, which we see on the board. And this check, Black getting the first check in against the king, is a very safe variation from Black. Black basically saying, I'm okay, I know you like a positional game, I can play positionally as well, I'm going to keep things under control in this one. But they must be so nervous, Jovanka, because there's so much at stake in this game. Just put yourself in their situation. You're playing for so much money and pride and everything.
Absolutely, and of course they are playing for that coveted spot in September for the big finale, as well as a guaranteed prize of 8,000 euros. And we can see the heart rates, they're quite high. Gunay at 146, whereas Humpy has a slightly lower one, but still moderately high at 129. And it seems like Humpy is sticking to what she knows, and Gunay seems incredibly well prepared.
Yes, and this is a pretty standard kind of position we see here. With that last move, Gunay is using her pawn to defend that bishop. Humpy takes that pawn, and now you can capture with both pieces actually, but the bishop is the safer option. There's a bit of a change in the pawn structure now. Black has more pawns in the middle of the board in front of the king and queen. That's considered a good thing, but white can use that open line later on in the middle of the board to exert pressure. We're still in the opening stages. Remember, chess has 3 stages: opening, middle game and ending, and we're going to be getting into the middle game very soon.
Absolutely, and we see with Humpy castling the king to safety that the middle game has been reached. Gunay actually doing the same so far. Very thematic, very good. And white's position is all going to be about the open line in the middle of the board, and Humpy actually seizing some space first, kicking back this bishop.
Humpy doing her normal thing, spending so much time on moves that she really should know quite well. On the other hand, Gunay has gone for a particular middle game setup, which is called the hedgehog setup. It's supposed to look like a hedgehog. I can't really see it at the moment, but if you know what a hedgehog is, apparently Black has gone for that setup. Does it look like a hedgehog to you, Jovanka?
It's never looked like a hedgehog to me. And there we see Humpy actually putting a rook in the center, and I think Humpy will be relatively happy. I mean, she has a very safe position, she has a small space advantage, and this has been such an important way for Humpy to play. Actually, we've seen that she takes her chances in the long game, and now she's actually centralizing the knight and saying, let's trade off bishops so that I can then jump in with a knight to attack the black queen.
I agree with what you say there. I mean, we've seen throughout this tournament so far that Humpy likes a slower positional game. She's extremely experienced. She's using that experience to know where her pieces should land in this middle part of the game. We have an exchange of light square bishops, but white has a bit of a positional threat of her knight in the middle coming forwards and left, attacking the queen, and that's something, if I was black, I'd want to try and avoid, but it's not easy to avoid that one. I would say everything's gone well for Humpy out the opening. She's got the kind of position she likes, and not all bad for black though, because black is solid. The hedgehog is a very hard opening to break down. You kind of curl up into a ball and you don't let your opponent get through to you.
Yeah, having said that, I do think that black's position is solid, but there is one target that I think Humpy will zone in on, and that is the pawn sitting there on d6. That's why she's jumped in with her knight. She's going to trade that knight for the bishop, and then she's simply going to pile up her forces, bear down like a laser on that pawn, and just say, you know what, I'm always slightly better.
And I don't quite like this last move. It seems like Black's pieces are getting a bit discombobulated. They're getting all jumbled up. They're in the way of each other. And that bishop, Black's bishop, compare it to White's bishop. White's bishop has got free range, like an archer, like a rocket, shooting across to Black's king. But Black's bishop is really stuck there. Now Black has moved the rook to attack White's knight. That knight now has to make a decision. Can it take the pawn here? I don't think so. That doesn't quite work, but you have a couple of other options. You can secure the knight there
It
by
might
moving
work,
the pawn.
actually.
I mean, if you take the pawn, I think the rook comes back, and
Yeah.
I can't see it working, but maybe
There were
I'm
some
missing.
counter-attacking possibilities, but Humpy, she doesn't like to take that much risk, and she instead goes for the option that is going to give her a comfortable advantage.
Just look at her knight, Jovanka. That white knight on the left-hand side, the pawn is securing it to that square. And how do you get rid of White's knight there? It's such a big piece. I might even bring my knight back as Black and try to offer the exchange of knights, because I can't live with a piece like that in my position.
Yeah, and well, we see Gunay speeding up, and she decides, what, she needs to push forward and fight against that potential weakness on the a7. And wow, actually, Humpy signaling the retreat to force the Black knight on the defensive.
It looks really bad for Black now. There's also another problem. We talked about this open line that White has. Look at White's rook in the middle of the board. That rook is lining up against one of Black's pawns. In the long run, that pawn is going to be a real target for White's pieces. Both sides of knights, they're jumping around a lot. The evaluation bar really liking White's position. And I think White can now start kicking those knights away if she so wishes, and she does. She kicks the knight away of her pawn. Gunay is doing the right thing. She's speeding up. This is the one advantage I think Gunay has on Humpy. Speed. She's got to use that advantage, and Humpy has got to now do what Humpy does best. Go into turbo Humpy gear.
And well, certainly there's been some development, because Humpy decides to actually try to offer a trade of knights, and of course now she is mobilizing the rook. What's Gunay gonna do? It's very difficult to come up with an active plan for Gunay. Perhaps she can slide the queen to perhaps threaten something there against the White king, and instead she develops the rook. But like I said, Humpy has a target in mind. It is that weak d6 pawn, and she is doing everything she can to win it.
And she has won that pawn in the middle of the board, so White has now gone one pawn up, and it's just that White knight. That White knight has stayed there throughout the game. Black's knight goes to a horrible square. Look at that pawn in the middle. It's a real thorn in Black's side there, dominating the board. Black trying to get the knight back around. Keep an eye on the clock. This could be a key thing. Lovely check there. Horrible move to face, and that is going to win more points.
It's certainly going to win some material there, and now we can see the rook trade and take a look at that pawn on e7. That is a magnificent piece and is also supported by the bishop. Now the queen comes in. Oh, this is situation critical for Gunay, and she doesn't have time. 3 seconds to... Ooh. She made that move with 2 seconds to spare, but well, Humpy's pieces. Hang on a second, she nearly blundered the queen.
Wow, you don't know if you're watching. She had her hand on the wrong piece there. That's the only way I think Humpy can go wrong here. She's dominating the position. White's pieces are just coming right into the structure. Humpy is doing everything right. She wins another pawn there, and she's just got to keep her cool, and that is the end. Humpy wins the first game.
Humpy really was in her element in that game. She got a very comfortable position with the white pieces. She had her target that she could just simply focus her attack on, and Gunay was struggling.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not sure. It's easy in hindsight. Everything's easy in hindsight to say approve of Black's opening there, but the start of the game is so important, because you've got to pick a way to get into the battle that suits your style. And it seems to me that the only style that really suited was Humpy. Humpy got just the kind of position. She could use her extra years of experience to navigate. She knows where to put the pieces, and it went wrong very quickly actually at the start of the game for Gunay there. It just seemed like she didn't really know where her pieces should go, understandably, because it's a very tough opening to play.
Right. Gunay's position really lacked the dynamism. And here we see that opening. We see Humpy with the extra space. And with that traitor bishop, you're going to see Humpy just plonk that knight on the c6 square. And that piece is actually almost going to win the game for white.
Yeah, the hedgehog kind of got a little bit run over there, didn't it, by a rather large Humpy lorry. And it just destroyed the hedgehog opening there. And you can see Humpy just played so well and very calmly. She just did all the right things. See, she lines up against his pawn, and now she wins that pawn. And that was the first sort of tangible thing that dropped in Gunay's position. And again, I'm just so impressed how calm she is in these encounters.
Yeah, and there we see that Humpy not only is a pawn up, but she has a magnificent passed pawn. And Gunay, seconds left on the clock. She is struggling for a plan, and suddenly that pawn got even closer to its destination.
That's right. There was one little moment later on, I don't know if we got it, but around about here, Humpy nearly blundered her queen, but this was the end. And the reason Black resigned is that that pawn was one square away from queening. It was going to come a queen. So we're on, obviously, it's quick, it's fast, it's Armageddon. We're on to the next one already. And can Gunay come back?
Absolutely. Gunay has the white pieces. We've seen Gunay play some fabulous chess. She's come very well prepared. She's come with a strategy. And we've actually also seen her be very successful in that long-term game. Just getting a normal position and definitely just outplaying her opponent in the later stages.
Yeah, I think what Gunay needs to do here, she needs to go for a strategy where she doesn't get involved in these positions where she has no space and no activity. It's really hard to play those positions. Gunay, she has the advantage of the white pieces. She needs to go directly towards Humpy's king. Checkmate ends the game. Go Humpy king killing. You've got to go towards the king. You've got to go tactical. You've got to win this game to bring it into Armageddon. And we're off any second now. There we go. White must win this game to stay in the competition.
And once again, the players are beginning the game with very high heart rates. 130 for Gunay, 126 for Humpy. And Gunay opening with her trademark king's pawn. And now here comes a sideline. But Humpy, she's been playing this opening for years. She knows exactly how to react.
Yeah, I mean, I think Black's played the sideline slightly here by moving the knight in front of her king. This is a line which I've also played, trying to maybe take Gunay out of her theory there. And this position is pretty sharp, but I think theoretically it's supposed to be okay for Black. And Gunay is already thinking, which is not a good sign at such an early stage. You want to be very confident at the start of the game. And this exchange, well, I don't see any problem with Black's position at all. You could take with either the pawn or the knight here. And Black's pawn in the middle of the board, it looks pretty strong to me. It could be a real problem for White.
Absolutely. And when you were saying that Black could choose a capture, I thought Humpy was always going to capture with a knight.
That's
she
right.
doesn't like structural weaknesses. And well, Gunay agrees with you. That pawn on e4 is a nuisance, and that's why she targets it immediately.
Yeah, maybe Humpy should have gone against her instinct there, because Humpy could have doubled her pawns but gained time by attacking the bishop. That might have been a more aggressive move, but Humpy's a very traditional player. She likes playing in a way where she doesn't damage her position. She wants to slowly get the upper hand with the better pawns, the better pieces. The question now, how does she defend this pawn in the middle? White is threatening just to go queen takes pawn check, winning a pawn. So Humpy, probably out of her theory now, has to think of a good way to defend it, and it's not easy to see how.
And she does step forward with the queen into the center, and just having a look at the evaluation bar there on the right, and suddenly jumped up to White's favor. I'm wondering whether the bishop should attack the queen, or maybe it's something very simple as in stepping forward with the pawn 2 squares.
This looks like a great move, this one. There might have been something stronger, but this is still a very decent move. White is getting the center. White's pieces on the left-hand side that are sleeping, the knight and the bishop, they can be moved out very shortly because now you're making room for the dark square bishop with that last move. White will castle, and the question is that black pawn in the middle strong or weak? At the moment, it looks weak, and if it is lost, White will be a very strong and good pawn up. So Humpy coming to defend that pawn with another piece, and I expect White should just castle and finish her development now, keep the time advantage on Humpy. I would be pretty confident as White here. I think the opening's gone a lot better for Gunay than it did in the first game. She could be a lot happier with this position, I would have thought, Jovanka.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I like your suggestion of castling, but Gunay has decided to develop the dark square bishop with tempo. It's now attacking the pawn on c7. So once again, Humpy needs to play some defensive moves as opposed to playing the developing moves that she really wants to be doing.
Humpy doesn't look very comfortable here, and her time is ticking down. This is great chances to go to Armageddon if it keeps at this pace. White is attacking that pawn with that last move. White's knight can come out next move, putting pressure on Black's pawn in the middle. So Black now nearly losing the queen because the bishop can attack the black queen now, and it has nowhere really to go. That could be a very scary move to face. There could even be something else, but bishop attacking the black queen looks like an obvious choice to me.
Yeah, I have to say I didn't think that this move was possible on account of this attack against the queen.
Maybe it's not possible, but it is blitz, and you have to find sharp counters to your opponent's move.
She's going to play it.
She's played it. Good move. Only one square for the black queen. It has to come all the way over to the side of the board, and after this move, maybe White can even attack the queen again. If you're really brave, you've got to be brave as White here because you have to win. Maybe use the pawn, attack that queen again. That would be my first choice here. You've got other decent options. Looks like she's going to go for something a bit more simple. Might be a good choice as well, though.
She trades the bishops and now develops the knight. But I do feel that this allows Humpy to get back into the game. Humpy is able now to get the king to safety. She can also bolster the protection of that pawn by pushing the d pawn forward. No, she goes safety first. And now it's not possible to capture that pawn in the middle. I think Gunay had a golden opportunity to put a lot of pressure on Humpy's position, and she missed it.
I agree, and at some point, well, both sides are now castle. We're into the middle game, but this is a problem move because now Black has two pawns guarding each other in the center. Before it was one, but those pawns can look after each other, and I'm starting to like Humpy's position. They're both speeding up. White's got to waste time giving the bishop a square it can retreat to. It's still okay for White. White still has chances in this position, but it's more of a Humpy position. Humpy has control of her the middle of the board now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, take a look at that pawn sitting in White's half of the board. I mean, that is such a wonderful pawn. And Humpy, she knows when she can make those luxurious little moves, making some air for the king. Also, perhaps she's even thinking of extending on the king side. And, well, Gunay just deciding to break out.
I think this is a great move from Gunay because later on she needs to get rid of that pawn. It was far too dangerous, and Humpy now down to 24 seconds. Humpy only needs to get a draw to go through to the final. She must be scared here. Gunay's heart rate, though, is much higher, 149 against Humpy's 130. How is Gunay going to play this? I just say, if I was Gunay, just play quickly. Play quickly. Get rid of that bishop. Swap it off. She is. Just play it. Don't hesitate. Play.
And that's what she's going for. But Humpy says, you know what? I like my bishop there. And take a look at those very classy moves that Humpy has been making with those pawns on the left side of the board. She completely dominated White's knight. And again, the players really reaching a critical stage. 23 seconds and ticking down for Gunay. And she seems to be hesitating.
Yeah, and she's got to move quick, and she is moving quick now. Keep an eye on that clock now. This is one of the key things. Humpy is 15 seconds. It's still a position where White has chances, because if we get to an ending, Black's pawns are on light squares, and they could be a real target for White's bishop. And this might be an ending that Humpy does not want. The bishop starts to attack one of those pawns. I'm starting to think, actually, that White is not doing so badly here, as long as she keeps that tempo up.
And one thing that she can do is she can destabilize the protection of the e4 pawn by actually pushing up her own pawn in the middle. But Humpy attacking the queen with a knight, retreating. 12 seconds for Humpy. I love this next move, getting the queen.
Bishop takes pawn, now wins a pawn.
It does win a pawn. Oh, fantastic stuff.
Is she going to
see it?
Bishop takes pawn. Well,
no, she doesn't seem to have
I don't think
spotted
she's seen it. And she's got 10 seconds left. Moving the king is also good. White's queen has infiltrated into Black's position. It looks, and now the queens are coming off. This is the ending I was saying.
But the pawn is falling on the a4 square. Come on, Gunay.
Take the pawn.
Just take the pawn.
She hasn't seen it. Take that pawn. Your bishop can take the pawn.
She is for choice.
She's not seeing it. She didn't take the pawn. She had a whole pawn. The bishop. She can do it again. Take the pawn.
It seems to be a blind spot. And now she's going... Okay, now she's going to actually take with the king. No, she takes with the bishop. And she advances forward with her own pawn. This is just instincts now. And Humpy, they're very much on the back foot. Another pawn falls for Humpy, but she does mobilize her king. Bishops are fantastic pieces in these open positions. And did you spot that hesitation? Gunay with just 5 seconds.
And it is still good chances for Gunay here if she can just keep playing quickly. She has 3 seconds. She's 1 pawn up. She's going to go another pawn up. She's got to move. Black is just about holding on, but I really like White's position. If this was a classical game, White would be winning this with an extra pawn. Push your pawns now. I'm just amazed how calm Humpy is, though. She's got to activate the king, Humpy, and she does. Kings are so powerful in the end part of the game. What's going to happen here? This is so close. I think Gunay is doing a fantastic job at the moment.
She is doing a fantastic job, but she does seem to be wavering a little bit. And now she's pushing up.
She's doing the right thing.
She's doing great things.
That pawn on the side of the board. Keep an eye on White's pawn. 3 seconds. That could become a queen very quickly. It's 3 squares away from queening. All that White needs to do is get that pawn to the touchdown square, get a queen, and we will have Armageddon. I think it's going to happen. I think it might just happen here.
And she comes forward with the king. Okay, it's now a question of not blundering. I mean, is there a knight check?
No, this is now totally winning for White. I think, yes, she's done it. She's come back into the match. That is quite remarkable. That shows so much spirit in a position where she was not better. She outplayed the legend Humpy and won to get Armageddon.
Yeah.
Incredible.
She managed to steady her nerves as well. I mean, she was playing with seconds left on the clock. It was instinct. It was emotional. And boy, hats off to Gunay for a very impressive performance.
Yeah, she did so well there. And let's just have a look at some of the highlights. In this position, White is controlling the center. White has a bit of an easier game, so it was looking quite good there. But then Humpy played really good chess, as she nearly always does. She's pretty good. You know, she's not the player she is for no reason. And around about this point, White maybe missed an opportunity, and Humpy improved her pawns there, bringing the pawns into the center of the board.
Yeah, it did feel like the pressure was getting to Humpy because she started to make negative decisions. She started to perhaps not play in the most aggressive way, and both players there, we can see when some trades happen, they often say that when you are unsure, when you don't have so much time on the clock, people have a tendency to simplify.
Understandable, and Humpy normally loves the ending, but in that one she got outplayed by the younger opponent. This was a killer move. The White queen just diving into Black's position, and Black is totally tied down here. It was quite strange though, because White, Gunay, did forget about that pawn on the side. She could have taken a pawn for free there, but it's very easy to get blinkered vision when you've got 4 seconds and they're ticking down. The queen's now come off, and the problem that Black had was that Black's pawns are on light squares. White has a light square bishop, so White can attack those pawns with her bishop, which she did.
Yeah, and very impressive endgame from Gunay, managing to keep her head calm when the position was very, very tense. And now we see Gunay in her element. She knows she just has one task, and that's to advance the A-pawn. And there we see the final handshake. And Gunay did make it to the Armageddon.
Wow, so we have Armageddon, and it's going to be something special, this one, because whoever gets through, it's just one game away now. It's an extra, I think, well, something like 10,000 euros, but you're guaranteed a place in the final event of this tour as well. You get to play in the final of this event. There's so much at stake here, and it's going to be tense.
It is going to be tense. 8,000 euros on the line for both players. And like you say, Simon, the glory of playing in the grand finale alongside some of the biggest names in chess. And there we see the players in action. And Humpy, once again, she is playing the Armageddon with the black pieces. She did say that she lost the toss yesterday. So perhaps she is just unlucky with a coin.
Yeah, I mean, she's certainly not unlucky at the board, and both their heart rates are starting quite high. So the way this works, let's just remind everyone, this is the Armageddon game. White starts with more time than black, 5 minutes against 4. The clocks are ticking down. You can see the times. The heart rates are high, but they don't get any extra time. They don't get any time added on as they make their moves. And we see the same opening pretty much as last time, and this queen now comes into the middle of the board. White's going to try to open it up with d4, and one thing you don't want to do here is get under a minute, because you just don't get that added time. And we see often these Armageddon games with one side losing on time. Now this opening position, I think it's absolutely fine for black. I've had this kind of thing myself. I don't think Gunay has got the position she got in the last game, but all the pieces on the board, all to play for still.
Definitely all to play for. And one thing that will be giving Gunay hope is that black's king is still not yet castled.
You can go bishop takes knight here.
She is going to go bishop takes knight. And the big question is, what is she going to play? Pawn takes bishop, bishop takes queen. And we see her reaching for the queen. And now the queens have left the board. And talking about the heart rates, we can see Gunay's is very high. It was around 150. It's now gone down to 141. Both players feeling the pressure.
I may have even had this position in a big game myself, and I think Humpy will be a lot happier in this game than the last one, because the queens are off the board. You only need a draw. That releases a lot of the tension, so you don't have to calculate as much. Yeah, I like this move. Just keep making exchanges. White can now take the knight, which she might do.
I think she should do.
I think she should do as well, to get a better pawn structure. But Humpy just needs to hold on, really. And
it's not easy to hold on, though, when you only have 3 minutes. But Gunay, I think now she should be trusting her instincts, and she does play the very natural bishop capture. And Gunay now capturing that pawn in the middle with her rook. I actually thought she would capture with the pawn.
I quite like this structure for white, because if you just compare the pawns, remember, compare pawns and pieces to work out who's better. White's got better pawns because black's pawns are doubled and isolated on the left-hand side, but black has the more active pieces. Black's pieces are better developed, and wow, what a move there. Castling queenside, leaving your bishop on pre, but if the bishop is captured, it's checkmate. So you have to block the rook, and white does block the rook. But Humpy using her pieces really well. Maybe the other rook can now come into the middle of the board. I'd certainly be thinking about playing that move. This rook in the corner is not doing anything. She has brought it in, threatening to come down to the bottom with a big check, so the white king stops the black rook from infiltrating any further.
I have to say, I'm not a big fan of Gunay's position, actually. I think Humpy's piece activity far outweighs the weakness of those pawns there on the left. And I was expecting Humpy to... Oh, Humpy, you tactical monster. And that was a nice shot.
That was a brilliant move from Humpy, and she's played some great tactics here. I think, look at the valuation bar. It's all over in Humpy's side. That knight move was a star move. She offered a piece, but the knight has gone straight into the position. And the problem that white has here is that white's pieces, they're just sleeping. Look at white's pieces, they haven't got out of bed. They're all there on the first and second rank. They're lazy. They need to start moving. But I think it's too late to move them now.
It is too late. I mean, white's piece is now in a bind, and we can see Gunay is just reacting. The good news for Gunay, yes, the bar is not a big fan of her position, but there's no clear-cut way, and I say this, and suddenly it looks like white's position is on the verge of collapse. I mean, how do you defend that knight? And Gunay says, you know what? It's time to counterattack.
That was, I think, a killer move from Humpy here, that bishop coming in, and now we're going to get another ending. But the problem that white has after everything gets exchanged is that black's rook is so active here. Look at the black rook. Getting a rook to this square, we call it the 7th rank, is a key tactic because that rook can act like a hoover. It just hoovers up your opponent's pawns. There it goes.
There goes one.
Hoover mode.
It is hoover mode. I mean, and also when you compare the activity of white's rook, I mean, it's a disaster. And that's why Gunay decides just to perhaps threaten some activity, but Humpy, quick as a flash, says absolutely not. And there goes some pawns from the board. And yeah, and remember, Humpy does have draw odds.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really bad position for white here. White is doing everything she can. She does have the time advantage.
Another pawn is dropping.
Oh, that's a great move from Humpy. I mean, the only chance I'd say for Gunay is to keep up the pace, keep the rooks on the board, and cross your fingers and hope Humpy makes a mistake. That's the only thing she can do. But Humpy is so good under pressure. She's so good in the ending, and she's now using her pawn on that side to try and become a queen. And that pawn, I think it's going to become a queen very shortly. It's one square away from queening. The rook comes behind. This king is now going to come up and support it. And I think we're going to get a finalist very shortly. The king attacking the rook. This is heartbreaking for Gunay, but Humpy has played a fantastic game here. Absolutely brilliant. She's combined good opening, good tactics, good vision, good time. She's done everything right in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Humpy really does level up when it comes to these time controls, and now she's just worked out that this king and pawn ending is hopeless for white, and that pawn is unstoppable. And we see the handshake, and it is Humpy that is the victor.
Well done, Humpy. Fully deserved there. I mean, these things are always heartbreaking because, you know, for Gunay, you go so far in the tournament and you get a very close game, but you just can't finish it off. And Humpy showing her class there, getting the 2-1 victory, and that puts her now into the final with that very I feel that was one of the highest quality games I think we've seen that in total from Humpy. When the pressure's on, she just
rises up. Right.
She like, you know, so yeah, it's like, you know, she's unbelievable when the pressure's on. Incredible.
Absolutely. I have to say that endgame that she played was just superb. The way she mobilized her forces, she didn't care about pawn structure. She spotted her chances when they came. Very impressive game.
Yeah, we can have a look at some of the highlights of that game now, and around about here we see that the queens come off, and this was already something that I think favoured Humpy somewhat, because you take a bit of pressure out of the position, so that was when things were already looking a little bit good, but there were some amazing tactics here.
Yeah.
And this move was just astonishing, Jovanka. I mean, I can't believe your piece is on pre and you castle queenside.
I know, but you threatened checkmate, and from this point on, Humpy was simply relentless. And we're going to catch some of those end moments. And here we see another move, and here is the beautiful
stunning
move. It caught us all by surprise, but it was exemplary. And now the knight comes in, and white's position just collapses.
Yeah, and the problem with that was, you might have noticed that the white rook could have taken the bishop, but then black would have done the same thing with a checkmate threat. We call it the back rank checkmate. And here we saw more exchanges, but they go into a rook and pawn ending. They're both obviously excellent endgame players, but the rook and pawn ending, it was just really grim for white. Why was it grim for white? Because the activity of the rooks in the ending, who has the better rook normally has the advantage, and black had this hoover of a rook just going around mopping up all the pawns there.
And there you can see Humpy knows exactly how to win this type of ending. It's just about pushing her pawns, getting them to become queens, and there you go.
Yeah, and she did it in style. That pawn running down the board, one square from queening, and now she just needs to support that pawn, and she does that in classical style by bringing her king up to support that little pawn, and the king now touches down, attacking the white rook. The white rook had to give way, but then the pawn would have queened. So we're gonna now have an interview, and this could be a tough one because it is over with the loser.
Yeah, we're gonna go to David, who is now with Gunay.
Hi guys, I'm here with Gunay, who you had a heroic effort, so close. How are you feeling right now?
Well, what I can say, the first game I lost because kind of didn't feel the position, maybe, I don't know. But the second game took really in a good way. And the third game, actually, I could go the same line that we went in the second game, but I don't know, I just thought, okay, d5 is not maybe a really good move, so I don't know what happened wrong, what went wrong, I mean, and I couldn't really use my time.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, this opening you had in the second and third game, was this prepared for this tournament? Is something you've played before? It seemed very tricky.
No, it was her choice that she went something different. I don't know if it's, I mean, in the blitz, you don't have to play correctly. You have to play fast, so she was playing fast. And in the third game, it showed itself.
The third game with Armageddon, did you have the choice? Did Humpy have the choice?
I made a choice. I chose white color, so I played with white.
Now it is the end of the road here for you in Berlin. What did you think about the tournament overall, the format? Any thoughts about the tournament in total?
I really love this format. I would love to see in the future kind of tournaments, and it's really fascinating that in women chess also we do kind of tournaments, not only in the men, and I would love to see kind of tournaments in the future, so looking forward.
We were very glad to have you here. Is there any game of yours throughout the tournament or any match that you particularly enjoyed, looking back on a more positive note?
Well, even though I have lost this match, I really liked this match too, but if I would say that a winning match, it was against Kashlinskaya.
And what's next for you in your chess career? Where are you going next?
Next tournament is the Cyprus Women's Grand Prix, and it's like I'm tomorrow leaving for that tournament.
Well, best of luck with the trip. Have a safe flight, and from the bottom of my heart, it's been very nice to see you here. May you come back to Berlin, and back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, David. And yeah, you could just see the disappointment etched in her face. I mean, very tough for Gunay.
Yeah.
But then again, it's still more fun and games for Humpy, as she will now face off against Bibisara.
Yeah, so we now know what the final will be, and it's going to be a great, great final. Let's have a look at a quick highlight now.
And of course, we have to mention our partners, FIDE Online Arena, which hosts rated tournaments and games 24 hours per day. Join the arena and you'll get a FIDE ID, a profile on FIDE.com, access to pro chess community, as well as official online ratings and titles recognized by the International Chess Federation. There's prize money tournaments and so much more. So play official games at chessarena.com.
Yeah, so it's final time. It's getting nearer. is creeping up on us a little bit, and we of course know who is playing Bibisara now. Bibisara has won every single match so far. She actually beat Humpy in a previous battle, but this is the big one. This is what counts. This is the big prize money one. The good thing for both of these two players is that they both now get into the final competition of this, the September all winners final, so they can relax a little bit, but they got the first place first to fight for.
Absolutely. And Bibisara still on her second live. She's 19 years old. She became an international master at 16 years old. She's also the back-to-back women's world blitz champion, winning in 2021 and 2022, and that achievement puts her in the Guinness Book of Records. And if that's not enough, she's also a rhythmic gymnastics champion.
She's a busy person. And we have her opponent, the fantastic Humpy, who just played a really good game of chess. Grandmaster at the age of 15, incredibly young for anyone in the world to become a Grandmaster so young. And you can see some of her other achievements there. And there's many, many more which don't fit on the screen as well. And we can also just have a look at a video, give us a bit more information about these two great players.
I like to play initiative and of course attack. I like tricky positions when my opponent needs to find only move, and where I have chances even if my position is worse, because he needs to calculate a lot of variation, and if he don't do it, he have a mistake.
I'm more of a positional player, but I do take risks when the situation demands. I would say I'm more a very steady player in a classical format. It's rarely that I gamble things, or I just make too many sacrifices or something like that. I just don't do those kind of things usually.
And earlier on, we did ask the players who will win the tournament, and here are some of their answers.
And you can see some very interesting players that they picked there. I can see that Alexandra came up a lot. Lizzie has picked Humpy. There you go, another Alexandra. So who won the vote? Well, Alexandra won the vote. And Bibisara, where is she? Oh, she's there. She got one vote.
She came third. She got one vote.
Yeah.
I have to say, my favourites for this tournament were Kosteniuk and Bibisara.
Yeah, I was thinking Alexandra because she's so experienced, but Humpy, of course, has that experience, and maybe the most experienced player in the competition, even Humpy. And we're now 40 seconds away from the grand final, and I hope you're excited. This is it. This is what it's all come down to after 7 days of great chess. The two finalists, our two gladiators, mental gladiators, are facing off against each other. And which mental gladiator are you putting your money on, Jovanka?
I think this one is a close call. The last time these two played, it went all the way down to Armageddon, with Humpy losing in a completely winning position, but losing on the clock. Will history repeat itself? Well, we will find out. Remember, Bibisara is in her second life, so therefore she has a right to reset if Humpy wins this match.
So she's got two chances. It's worth pointing that one out, right?
Yep.
So we have an opening that we've seen quite a lot. The openings are familiar, but this time in the last game, Humpy had this on the white side, if you recall going back there. But this time, Humpy's got it on the black side. So she's clearly got a lot of experience in this. And we see some pieces being exchanged. This is, again, just to let you know, there's about 1,600 openings out there, and they each have different names. This one is the Queen's Indian, and it's a bit like also a BOGO Indian. Don't worry, they're just confusing names. I get confused all the time. And it's considered to be nearly even, but white has these two pawns which give a bit more control of the center, and white's bishop in front of the king is a bit more secure than black's fianchettoed bishop. Humpy playing a very solid variation here, pawn into the center.
Yeah, and I feel that Humpy is making all the right moves. For Bibisara, it's all going to be about making use of the half-open C line. She will be wanting to put a rook there. She'll also want to, when the time is right, and everything has to do at the correct time, push the pawn on the e-pawn, push it 2 squares forward and chase away the knight. But of course, you can't move 4 pawns forward without backing them up.
And this last move from Humpy, a little bit of a surprise to me. It's more common to see the pawn capturing there, because now white does get these 2 pawns in the center of the board, and these 2 pawns can really generate an attack. Remember, the center of the board is the most important part of the board, and look at that pawn, it's racing forwards, and I could see black's king becoming under a big attack. We actually saw Bibisara beat Humpy in the earlier round of this competition with the same pawn structure. She used that pawn to really start an attack against the black king. It's not that bad. I like this pawn structure as white. Maybe it's personal preference. Both of their heart rates a lot lower now as well.
It is a lot lower. I have to say, I do find Bibisara's choice very risky, because if things go wrong, black has a very nice post there in the middle of the board, and also a very clear-cut plan. White has now put a pawn on the e5 square, and that means only one thing. Those pawns are pointing to the right, and this is where Bibisara needs to focus her play. And, well, I did not expect the knights to get traded off, but that's happened, and Bibisara now capturing with that pawn, supporting the pawn in the middle.
Bit of a strange decision by Humpy, because as Jovanka said, that knight, the black knight, was so strong in the middle of the board. Knights in the middle are fantastic, and you couldn't kick that black knight away. But now white moves the pawn to a better structure. You can see white's pawns. We call this a pawn chain. Those 3 pawns are in a chain, and they guard each other. Now, what will white do next? Maybe bring the rooks into the middle, maybe start pushing a pawn on the side. You could push either of the pawns on the side, maybe even bring the queen towards black's king and go for a direct attack. That could be a very exciting option.
Certainly, I mean, so many tempting possibilities. I personally like the idea of centralizing the rook and actually playing with multiple plans in your pocket. And if I were playing white, I would also back that up by actually pushing the h-pawn 2 squares forward to secure a square for the knight.
Yeah, a logical move there from white. You line up your rook against your opponent's queen. At some point, you hope that your rook will open up. You might even try moving the other rook. You don't need to, you've got to be patient in chess sometimes. I mean, a lot of people think that this is a problem. They don't want to be patient. They're not patient people, but it's a patient build-up that suddenly explodes, which makes the game so exciting. On the other hand, black getting ready to move a rook into the middle as well.
And if we've seen one thing about Humpy, we know that she has patience in the barrel load. We've seen that she's willing to play the long-term position. She is willing to fight until the bitter end. And she actually plays your move of stepping forward with queen, connecting the 2 rooks. But still, Bibisara does need to find an aggressive plan.
They're going to have to start moving quicker. This is what has happened so often in this match. They get down to about a minute, and then the speed increases. White moving the pawn forwards. I like this idea as well. White is actually now just concentrating in the middle of the board. Black's knight is a bit funny over there. Humpy's knight is not looking very happy being on the edge. But a logical move, first of all. The rook comes in. The queen gets out of the way of the rook there, and it's still fairly even. We're well into the middle game of this encounter so far.
Yeah, still everything to play for. Humpy will be looking to neutralize any form of activity white will have on the right and focus the play on targeting that pawn in the middle of the board, the d4 pawn. But in order to do that, she does need to up the pace. She needs to also find a role for that knight on the edge, and she retreats it back to its starting square. And she gave us a quick nod. She approves.
I think that was a nod to herself saying, right, it's time to go super Humpy here, because I've got to play quicker. She's got 20 seconds left. Come on, Humpy, you got to move. She swaps off the bishop, still very calm, and White now brings that knight back. It's quite an even position, but look at the clock. Humpy, you've got 10 seconds. Move!
And Humpy does move. She steps forward with a rook. She's planning to double on the D line. And, well, I was going to ask whether Bibisara was going to do the same. But Bibisara says, no, I have a very straightforward plan. Push my pawns.
And Bibisara is playing, she's a very practical player. What I mean by that is she suddenly picks up the pace whilst Black is short of time. She's playing very aggressively here. That pawn she moved is going to go for maybe a direct attack. Can she push that pawn again? I would certainly do that if I was White here. Go for the king. Push that pawn that's in front of the rook. She has done.
No hesitation. She is able to play such aggressive moves, and I love the way she's gotten that knight to a very tasty square.
A nice
and
tactical
nice
move.
tactic idea from Bibisara. Wow, what an impressive player. I mean, she's looking unstoppable here.
She's playing. Oh, there you go. A big
that's
move.
it.
Whoa. That is what we call a fork. The knight checking the king, attacking the queen. There was no escape for Humpy there, and Bibisara won a powerful game there, Jovanka.
Yeah, she just overran Humpy's defenses.
Yep.
And I love the way it was just so simple. It was just push pawns forward. And she just made Humpy look weak. And Humpy, as we know, is a legendary player.
Yeah, indeed. She just did the steamroller attack, didn't she? She like, those pawns were like, They just kept coming and coming forwards, like flattening the position there, didn't they?
Yeah.
There's nothing that Black could do.
Yeah.
Very impressive. If you make someone as good as Humpy look so average, it's a real skill.
It absolutely is.
She's going to be hard to stop. Bibisara is on brilliant form, and here comes the steamroller, those pawns in the middle. We see an exchange of pieces here, but those 3 pawns in the middle, they soon become 4 pawns, and they just kept on marching forwards. And Humpy just couldn't do anything about them at all.
Yeah, she made her Humpy look powerless, and here she comes. She simply centralizes her queen, gets her knight into pole position, and here it comes.
Here comes
Push
the 4th pawn.
forward with the pawn, like the Jaws theme tune. Do-do-dun, do-do-dun.
Is that actually the theme tune? Or
Isn't it?
is it? We're making up the Jaws theme tune as we go here today. But look at it. I can't remember it. I'm really frustrated. I love Jaws and I can't remember the theme tune. What's going on? Maybe you can hum it at home along with us.
Yeah, and this is also a brilliant tactic from the 19-year-old. That pawn is unstoppable, and look at it. It pushes 1 square forward, but Humpy completely blunders and allows this killer fork, and that is it. Handshake, game over, 1-0 to Bibisara, and now we're less than 1 minute away from the second game. Humpy Koneru finds herself once again in a must-win situation. Think she can do it?
Yeah, she can definitely do it. Whether she will do it, I'm not so sure. But she's got the white pieces, which is a great thing, and she's shown so much class in coming back and fighting that it wouldn't actually be a big surprise if she did. Now let's sing that Jaws theme tune. No, we can't remember it, but it's 20 seconds away from the second game, and Humpy has to win. Otherwise, it's over. We will have a champion of this Women's Week competition. 6 seconds to go, and Humpy has the white pieces. Bibisara just needs to draw or win, and she'll be the queen.
She will be the queen, and she will be 18,000 euros richer for her efforts. And there was some funny business with the clock, but Humpy now choosing a very aggressive response to Bibisara's King's Indian opening.
Well, Humpy actually used this to beat Bibisara in the previous game that she had with Black in the tournament. But it's the other colours around this time. I'm actually surprised that Bibisara is playing so aggressively. The way that Bibisara is playing here with Black, it's super aggressive, and she only needs a draw. I love this approach. Rather than playing passively for a draw, she's like, right, I'm going to play super aggressive. I don't care. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to stick to what I'm good at, tactics.
And they do say that when you need to get a draw, the best thing you should do is actually play for a win and just stick to your normal game. Don't start playing solidly, because then you'll start making negative decisions, and that could affect the state of play.
Agreed. And we see it's quite a weird structure of the pawns there. We were talking about a pawn chain earlier on, and you can see both sides have interesting pawn chains. Humpy taking her time again. The next stage of this opening will be for the players. Oh, look at that stare. That was scared the hell out of me. If my opponent started staring like that, I think I'd have a little nervous breakdown. That was one stare there. But they both got to get their knights and bishops now into the battle and get their king safe. So I expect white will move her bishop, maybe with a check, and try to castle. And black will also try to castle any moment.
One thing black does do in this type of pawn structure is actually to push the h pawn 2 squares forward and push it as far up the board as you can in order to destabilize the white knight. And there we see a check from Humpy. Humpy has to block that check. Will she step with the bishop or the knight? I'm preferring the bishop, actually.
Yeah, the black king is attacked there, and you don't really want to move your king because you won't be able to castle. Castling is a much better way to get your king safe. You should always think of 3 things when you're in check. Can you take the piece that's checking you? Can you block the check? Black has blocked the check. And last, and sometimes least, moving the king out of the check. If you can't do any of those, it's checkmate, and you have lost the game. Now, white simply castles, black castles, both kings are getting safe. White has 2 more pieces, or I say 2 more knights and bishops to get in the game. Structurally, this is supposed to be a better structure for white. I would have thought Humpy will be reasonably happy with this position. Needing a win, you've got every chance here. I mean, it's a very aggressive position.
It is certainly a very dynamic position. White's plan is very straightforward. Generally, you want to put a white knight on the beloved c4 square, start targeting the pawn on d6. That is the target. Other things that you can do as well is also to set up a battery with the queen and bishop and trade off those dark squared bishops. What is Humpy going to do? Black is actually threatening to take the pawn on b2, and that's why she steps with the queen and aligns her queen and bishop together.
And I think what white would like to do on the next move is move one of her bishops on the right hand side, the dark bishop on the dark square, and try to swap it off for black's dark square bishop. This is a key piece for black. The bishop in front of black's king protects black's king, but it also fires across the board. So at some point, white really wants to swap off that bishop in front of black's king. Look at exchanges that help your position. Look at exchanges that improve your structure. That is one such exchange. But here, the other bishop has the decision to make. It is attacked. Do you go forwards and attack the rook, or do you retreat? She goes in.
She is going in, and Humpy now less than a minute on the clock. Bibisara will need to move her rook, and I completely agree with you, Simon. The queen and bishop have lined up perfectly, so there will be a trade.
So, and this is also a good move. You mentioned this square earlier, Jovanka, that white knight has a lovely square it can move to next. And but that bishop that white moved in, is that actually in a bit of trouble? I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I like this move from Humpy. She's exchanged off that really strong bishop. Is that is supposed to... Okay, she has got a good square for her knight. It might not be the end of the world, but double-edged positional choice there.
Certainly double-edged. And I have to say, I do feel that Bibisara has survived the worst of it. It's just now about consolidating the king and restraining white's potential pawn advances in the center. If she can do that, she will stand in good stead. And Humpy, once again, needs to come up with an active plan. But for now, Bibisara is on the defensive.
The problem with black's position is black's pieces. Black does have this good bishop. I'm actually starting to like Humpy's decision there. Very clever in some ways. Look, white's pieces are better than black's pieces.
Right.
Look at all of black's pieces. They're all next to each other. They're like, you know, you've got the bishop, queen, knight, rook, king. They're all just, they're doing nothing there. You've got to use those pieces, otherwise you'll get ground down. And here we see Bibisara trying to at least get rid of one of her bad pieces.
Yeah.
I'd rather be white here, though, I think.
I would rather be white as well. I mean, I have seen black, once these bishops get traded off, I have seen black actually come out with the queen all the way to the h4 square.
Black moving quickly, keeping a time advantage on Humpy. Let's remember, white has to win this game to take it to the next stage of, keeping the competition, I should say. White moving her queen up, connecting the rooks, and now black is starting to get those pieces into the game. But white just playing very good moves, coordinating well at the same time. Maybe the black knight should now come to the side. Okay, no, a rook comes to the center. Humpy, 17 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Bibisara's knight maneuver. I feel that the knight should have gone to the c7 square where it can start restraining white's pawns. And while Humpy, less than 15 seconds on the clock, and she still has to find a way in order to generate some activity.
Playing very good chess though, and black is just a little bit more cramped in this position. Humpy just securing her structure as much as she can. She's gone into turbo mood and she's really playing well in this game. Bibisara, that last move, it's a very passive move. It kind of shows that black doesn't have a plan. I think there's a good chance that white could come back in this game.
And well, black actually coming up with a threat of putting the knight on the b6 square and offering a trade. And Bibisara now 20 seconds left on the clock. She has to trade pieces, and instead she steps forward with the queen. Again, she's asking Humpy to take an active choice.
Yeah, and you can see all that Bibisara is doing now is going backwards and forwards. She's basically saying to Humpy, you have to try and break through. I can draw. What are you going to do? And what Humpy's going to try to do is push that pawn in front of her rooks. She's moved both of her rooks like a shotgun behind that pawn, and at some point that will be the breakthrough. But the clock time's 3 seconds.
And now we see a trade of knights, but still, can Bibisara handle white's threat of actually pushing the pawn forward? And here it comes. It is chaos on the board. And if Bibisara can't survive this, that's it. She will be lost.
Brilliant play from Humpy. Humpy is dominating the game. And oh, a piece gets knocked over there. What happened? Are they stopping the clock? Whoa, that was strange. You've got to be very careful knocking your opponent's pieces over. That might have put Humpy off a little bit, and she now knocks another piece over, but the knight comes in. It's still very good for Humpy. Keep an eye on the clock.
Oh, and this one is a killer because the bishop is now falling off the board.
Moving the knight back. I don't think she saw that one. I think she was a little bit still in shock there. She could have won the bishop, but it is really just on the clock. Bibisara is keeping things just about under control. She comes in with a check. Bibisara defending well. She's won a knight there from nowhere. The white knight has just dropped off. Humpy is a piece down. She goes for a pawn on the side, attacking black's bishop, but this is falling apart for Humpy at the moment.
Yeah, and another pawn will fall off the board, and Humpy just pushing the d pawn forward, but it can be corralled. And oh, a piece is a piece. Although Humpy is trying. Okay, Bibisara now giving a check. Can Bibisara force the repetition and walk away with the 18,000 euro first prize? And the answer is yes.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. The game ends in a draw because they repeat the position 3 times. There was no way the white king could have escaped that one. And I think it was actually a draw there. It doesn't matter. It's still Bibisara who goes in, well, wins the whole competition. I was going to say goes through to the next round. There's no more rounds left. That is it. It's done. She's done all the hard work and she manages to beat Humpy. Humpy's going to be very upset there because she was winning that game quite easily. It was just the clock which was against her. And we can see the winner now. Fantastic, smiling, walking through there, looking happy.
Yeah, she is walking the champion's walk. She is the winner of Women's Week. What a performance. I mean, she was unstoppable. She won every single match. I feel like she put the right amount of pressure on her opponents. It's no coincidence that she actually won 3 times by flagging.
Yeah, I mean, she did everything right for this time limit. This is the quickest kind of chess you can get, pretty much, you know, at this kind of level. And she just kept the pressure on her opponent. I mean, we're in the middle game here. If we just look at some highlights, and Humpy was playing very good chess. She made this decision to give up her bishop for that knight, and it was actually a very clever decision because her knights were so dominant later on in the game. And Humpy was doing very well around there, playing great chess.
Yeah, and you can just see Humpy does have a dominating position. She has a straightforward plan, but the only problem is that she doesn't have so much time on the clock. And it was certainly a nervy end to that game.
Yeah, it was very exciting at the end here, and this is where White was starting to come through in the middle of the board here. You can see Humpy very short a time though, the black bishop coming in, and that was the key move, opening up the center, the key push to get an advantage. But it was really down on the clock. That was the problem at the end.
Yeah, I have to say, I have to compliment both players on their resourcefulness, because it does look like White's position is overwhelming. And here comes a sneaky move. And Bibisara actually giving a check. And now the protection has been released on the knight, and she just nets material. And suddenly, just like that, the position has completely changed.
And I think that's been one of the key things throughout this competition, that Bibisara has just been so sharp tactically, spotting all the possibilities when they come along, when she's very short of time, and a good victory, brilliant victory.
And here we have the closing moments where Bibisara forces the draw and nets herself the title of champion. And let's go over to David, who has an interview with Humpy.
Yeah, I'm here with Humpy. You know, today you did get halfway there. You will be here in September again, but I'm sure you wanted to take first place. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, today it was all interesting games. I think even in the semi-finals, it was a good fight. And in the finals, like when I had black, I was aiming for c5 in many positions, but she showed a great depth, because in most of the cases she's getting this queen c2 and knight g5 idea with the indirect attack on d8 queen, and she did not allow me to play this c5 breakthrough, and that gave her a very good advantage. And with White, I think I managed to do well. Like, I created some mess, and towards the end I think I should be winning somewhere, but it was just 4-5 seconds in the clock, and I couldn't find it, and it ended as a draw.
You did very well in the semi-final. Are there any critical moments though in the final that you have in mind?
No, actually I didn't think too much about this, because blitz, it's very difficult to prepare for every opponent and every opening, so I just wanted to be practical. Yeah.
And I think you had to write down who you thought would win the final, and Bibisara, I think, actually wrote you. So is there anything you like to say about Bibisara and the future of her career?
Well, definitely, I think she has shown some flawless chess. If she continues to play like this, I think she will win almost every tournament.
Now, about this tournament, do you have any thoughts about the format or about Berlin, the club? Anything you'd like to share with us?
Well, I really like the atmosphere here. It's very good, and it's also quite an interesting format. I'm also looking forward to come back in September.
And you will be playing against some of the best in the world and securing your spot alongside them.
Yes, so that would be a big fight, because we'll be having all top men players in the event. Probably we will be the Thailanders in the tournament. So yeah, it's a great opportunity for me as well to compete.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting to have you here. Last question I'll ask you, is there anything coming up in your chess career?
I'll be playing St. Louis this month end, and also I'll be playing in the Mahindra League in Dubai. So there are a lot of tournaments this season.
Well, obviously we would have loved to see you get first place, but you will be back here in September. Maybe you'll get another shot at glory. It's been really great to have you here, and we appreciate you coming. Hope to see you back in Berlin soon. Simon, Jovanka, for the last time, take it away.
Well, we have the winner of the whole Women's Week competition, and it is Bibisara. And first of all, does it feel good?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel bad. It has to feel
Yes.
good, right? So,
Yeah.
and the two games you had there, do you want to take us through them? The first game looked good quality.
Yes, I don't know why I don't nervous at all. I play calm and have very strong attack and just won a game.
Were you surprised by her opening?
I'm preparing to the Queen's Gambit, but she played this variation. It's okay. I'm not surprising. I just play what I know.
Yeah, it worked very well. And then in the second game, it looked like your position was not as fun to play. Is that right? I mean, how are you feeling there?
Yes, I don't like my position. In some moment when I played King B8, she have a Knight A5, I think, and Knight C6. After Queen C7, she have a E5, and I think my position is losing, but somehow I have some counterplay. And after Queen F3, Bishop D4. Okay, I also have a worse position, but I have some chances. I was lucky that after Rook E4, I have Queen F5 and don't lose a piece. And in the end, she blundered a piece. And I think in the end, I have a mate, but I just see checks and do it.
Yeah, draw was good enough.
A draw was
Yeah.
certainly good enough. And I have to take you back to that mad time scramble where you both had seconds left. I mean, what was running through your mind?
I don't know. I just start thinking about Armageddon. Because I think that I will lose this position because she have a pawn up and I have a very bad position. But after Queen E6, I don't see something immediately, and I have Rook C2, and okay, I can win the game, but for me, draw is enough.
Yeah. So, well, still very impressive match. And I do have to ask you, how did you go into this match? How did you prepare?
I just have a rest and wait with whom I will play. I thought that it will be Koneru because I think that she's a little bit stronger. And before we have a not very fair match where I won by time in the losing position, and for me it also will be interesting that she's a vice world champion in the blitz, and I want to win most fair way.
It's nice. And you are, of course, now 2 times world blitz champion. You've won this, which is obviously an even bigger prize than being world champion. But what's next for you now?
Tomorrow I will go to the Cyprus to the Women Grand Prix. The first round I think will be after tomorrow, so I don't have time to rest. But after Grand Prix, I think I will.
Yeah.
And of course, you've got a ticket now into the grand final, which is happening September
Yes.
14th to 20th.
Yes.
How are you feeling about that? Because
I am really happy because I really like the city, and I will be happy to come back.
Yeah, good. And and you're going to play some great players there. I mean, you've
Yeah,
got some real
in September
legends.
it will be more difficult for me.
And do you like playing these strong legends of the game? Would it
Yes,
be-
of course.
Yeah, but it'll be a bit scary.
No, I'm not scary. I just understand that they are stronger, but in Blitz we all have a chances.
and some of the finalists so far have been like Wesley So, Sam Shankland, Nordibek, Abdusatorov, Gukesh, Humpy, and yourself.
I'd be
I have to
scared.
ask you, which one of them are you most looking forward to playing? Like, who do you hope to get paired with in the first round?
To go after. I think it will be better for me to play in the first round with Koneru, that I will have a chance to play more matches. But of course, it's really great chess players, and it will be interesting to play with them. Maybe Wesley So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have a chess hero, someone you look up to and admire the most?
Magnus Carlsen.
Magnus Carlsen, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And the players who are playing in the competition in September, if you had to pick one of them as your favorite player, would you have one?
From these 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're all
Okay,
good.
well, Wesley So.
Wesley So, okay. Yeah.
He's You've got a good style, Wesley.
Yes.
Yeah. And also you can learn a lot from him. But I think you have good chances, Bibisara. You are women's world blitz champion.
You remember how many losses I have in that this?
But you won some as well.
Okay, sometimes I won, but usually it's very tough for me.
Yeah. It's going to be incredibly tough for everyone, I think, playing. But you've enjoyed Berlin, and did you find your bicycle in the end, or did you just go walking?
No, unfortunately, maybe in September.
In September, yeah. But make sure we get a bicycle for you so you can see Berlin on a bicycle, right?
Okay, yes.
So, okay,
thank
good.
you.
And so you're playing in Cyprus next. Do you have any other tournaments?
I'm planning to play in the World Cup, and I will play in the Singapore. I don't know the name of the tournament. It's also a blitz. And I have Asian Games in September, this tournament, Grand Swiss, World Team. I have a lot of tournaments in this year, and what surprise that it's most of them women tournaments.
Yeah.
And it must be when you're away so much. I saw an interview earlier. I've got a cat I'm very fond with. You've got Gucci, is that right? So
yes.
Do you miss Gucci when you're away so much?
I miss Gucci, but also I miss my parents, because last time I don't see them very often. For example, after I have in March Grand Prix, after I have some tournaments, and my mom organized the tournament, and we don't see each other. I think in the last 2 months I saw them maybe 10 days.
Wow.
And also I have a little sister, so I miss them at very, very...
So you're a true professional, just traveling the world, playing chess tournaments.
Yeah.
Well, they must be very proud of you. So I don't know if they're watching, but we can maybe say hello to them. And do you want to say something in your own language to anyone who might be watching out there? So just to say hello, because we've got to learn.
Всем здравствуйте. Мне очень приятно было принять участие в этом турнире, и я рада, что смогла подтвердить звание сильнейшей шахматистки в блиц.
Now, I hope you said nothing rude, because I would not know. But it was very, very nice, and a very worthy winner. It seemed like you were the best player overall, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you in action in
Me too.
September. We'll be cheering for you.
Thank you.
Don't tell anyone that.
Okay, thank you.
And we, of course, have to mention the official partner of the Armageddon Championship Series, IT.com, a domain registry like no other. It provides a platform for anyone to create innovative domains and effectively showcase their online presence. Don't miss this opportunity. Visit IT.com today and create your unique online image.
What a great tournament this one has been. It's been loads of fun, as always, but it's not over, the series. We were talking about the final. The final is in September, but there's one more event that's coming up before that final, and it is the Europe and Africa event, and that is taking place on the 12th to the 18th of June. So put it in your diary. It's happening in the World Chess Club in Berlin again, and well, look at these players we've got for the next event. I mean, incredible names there. Each one of them a legend in their own right.
I mean, just to pick a few: Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, Michael Adams, Richard Rapport, who's recently seconding Ding Liren, as well as 2 online qualifiers. And of course, on June the 11th, there will be a fan meeting with the players at the World Chess Club in Berlin.
Yeah, so if you are a fan of those players, then, well, you should be, shouldn't you, really? This is the place to come to. It's the club in Berlin, great venue. And talking about Berlin, we're going to get the words of a resident here who was playing in the competition, Elisabeth, and hear her feelings on this amazing town.
I recommend everybody to to start at the Zoologische Garten. There is the entrance of the Tiergarten, because when you go to Zoo, it is a kind of Western city center. But then if you walk from there through the Tiergarten to get to the east, you will understand that people, buildings and everything changes. So you get a feeling actually that Berlin was really separated, and that you can really say that there was a west and the east part of Berlin. Apart from that, of course, you should see Checkpoint Charlie, and you should read everything around the story. At the Checkpoint Charlie, there was a street called Zimmerstraße, and on one side of the street where there was a west, and on the other side there was the east. So some people literally jumped out of the window to be in the western part. The nicest place, we call it Gendarmen Market. It's a kind of small, cute place, reminds a little bit on French style. It's also called the Parisian place. If you love culture, you go to the German Opera or the State Opera. And on Friday evening, in case I don't play, I will visit the La Traviata.
What a place Berlin is. It's a fantastic city, and if you had to pick one of those areas or a place in Berlin that you like the best, can you pick one?
Yeah, I would actually personally choose the Museum Island. I mean, so much history, awesome stuff, and some great markets. I have to say, Berlin has the best vibe. And of course, I would also choose the World Chess Club.
Of course. And if you want to know where all the fun in the chess world is at during the month of June, it's here in Berlin. So on Unter den Linden, you can come over here. It's open for business. They do some really good cocktails, not dangerous at all. And we might be having one of those cocktails very soon. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. And
we will see you all in June, and once again, thank you for watching.